While the start of the year might feel all sparkly and filled with positivity, I think we're all familiar with inevitably falling back to our old routines and feeling like we never made any changes, like these New Year, New Me soldiers dropping like flies by the end of February. But I feel like that's just a massive waste, so in this video, I'll share 3 essential tips to help you not only survive the year, but actually thrive and achieving your art goals. This is the year. Alright, let's say we have a goal for the year. I'll give a very common one that probably most artists would want as an example: getting better at anatomy. The first problem when you set a goal for an entire year like that is a year is definitely way too long. Let's be honest, my brain can't even comprehend the stuff that I want to achieve in the next 5 business days, and neither can yours. Don't lie to yourself now. Or maybe you can. I'm not making any assumptions, but you probably wouldn't be watching this video then. Anyways, to make a big goal like that achievable, we would have to break it down and set incremental, smaller goals along the way so we can get that sweet dopamine hit as we track our progression, hitting those milestones. So here's how I would do it with anatomy. We can split it into various body parts ranked by their complexity, because I would also encourage you to start with easy stuff first and gradually increasing the difficulty. The easiest way I find to do this is probably to split them into monthly groups, or if you want to, you can do quarterly, whichever floats your boat. The point here is to make a big and abstract goal, like getting better at anatomy, measurable, and allowing ourselves to track our progression, which directly ties into the next tip: picking the right goals. And specifically, these ones in the middle here. A goal for the entire year can be relatively abstract and vague, like getting better at anatomy. That works fine. But for these middle ones, we would have to go way more specific than that, because really, what does it mean to get better at anatomy? Having a goal like that doesn't really help you with anything but to set a general direction. It's like saying, I want to jump higher this year. Okay, but how high? It could be 2 inches higher or 15 inches higher. Depending on which one it is, your life for the next 365 days might look very different. So, for example, we talked about splitting the body parts earlier. A specific goal would look like February, week 1, drawing simplified arm structure. Week 2, rotating the structure. Week 3, identifying and drawing muscle landmarks. And week 4, we practice foreshortening poses. This is just an example, and you would pace the learning yourself based on your own level, the goal you want to achieve, and how much time you're going to allocate. And with pacing, this might be an overused advice, but it's important to be realistic. You don't want something too big happening too quickly in your life. It's just a recipe for disaster. It's almost always better to start small than having a too ambitious goal. Now, if you end up setting a goal that's too easy and you complete it within half a year, let's say, great. Now you have the rest of the year to set up new goals and go from there. So by combining these 2 tips, what we are essentially doing is breaking down our goal of learning anatomy even further and giving ourselves an actionable timeline throughout the entire year. Again, this is just an example. You can apply this to any goal you want to pursue, not necessarily just learning anatomy. I'll give you another example. If your goal is to, let's say, improve colors over the year, then break down that goal to smaller chunks. This can look like doing a number of color studies of certain artists that you like, or based on different color schemes and lighting scenarios. You get my point. Okay, so now that we know how to set up a basic plan to achieve our goals, this next tip is going to set everything into motion. Let's be honest with ourselves. Having fun is probably the single biggest motivation us artists have when it comes to drawing. While doing studies is important to enhance our skills, they're not always the most fun thing to do. So I read this book called Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, and one of the key lessons that I learned from the book is the importance of trying to insert fun in mundane tasks. And the way we can apply this to our art studies is by doing projects. Doing big projects that align with your learning goals is definitely one of the best ways to improve, in my opinion. These will probably look very similar with doing a bunch of art series. I myself did a pretty big art series a couple years ago on Twitter/X that lasted around a year, and honestly, it was one of the best things I ever did for myself. You see, when you're doing a series, not only do you have to think beyond just a single piece of drawing, which helps a lot in planning, but you also have to learn how to be consistent with visual themes, colors, and composition. Essentially, how to tie things together. This might even help you develop some sort of style in the long run, as you're forced to keep things cohesive. Now, okay, but how do we do this exactly? So if we use the same example with anatomy that I used throughout this entire video with the drawing arms, for example, we could apply that goal onto an art series, basically doing a series of drawings and paintings that heavily emphasizes arms as the subject matter. This would be different from just doing studies because you would be applying what you're learning about arms directly into a finished piece. So not only that this makes it sort of a challenge or a test for your knowledge, it also makes you apply things that you learn and solidifying them. Plus, it makes things more fun and you have more interesting stuff to post on social media. I mean, what else can you ask for? I don't know. This worked really well for me personally, but if you have other ideas on how to have fun while doing studies, share in the comments. Bonus tips. There are a couple caveats when you're making yearly goals. As we discussed before, a year is definitely way too long for our brains to comprehend in terms of goals. Good old instant gratification. But also, a lot might happen during the year, like life circumstances, or maybe you change your mind, you realize you don't want the same goal anymore. Whatever it is, it's totally fine to readjust and recalibrate.
Hey, my name's Jack, and I'm here to tell you that it's all right. This is cool.
Just don't give up unless you really have to. On top of that, I know it's called New Year's resolution, but really, you don't have to start at January if you don't want to. Start at June or September. Who cares?
Nice.
And expanding on being realistic, you also don't want to have too many different goals at the same time. Focus on one at a time, finish them, and move on to the next. This will keep you from being too overwhelmed on day one. So yeah, go out there, have some fun, enjoy your creative process, and smash those goals. And the like button. Also, let me know what are your art goals for this year in the comments. In the meantime, if you want another video to watch, click here and make sure to subscribe. Bye!